Hello, and welcome to the Nigeria Wiki, COM 9656, Fall 2013 semester. My name is Brian Lupo. I'm a part-time MBA student at Baruch College majoring in finance and investments. I'm expected to graduate with the conclusion of the Fall 2013 semester. Today I'm going to discuss the oral, nonverbal, visual, and written forms of communication in Nigerian culture. I'd like to begin my presentation with a geographical overview of Nigeria. Nigeria is a West Sub-Saharan African nation. As you can see, it's bordered by Benin in the west, Niger in the north, Chad and Cameroon to the east, and the Gulf of Guinea in the south. The country consists of two temperate zones. The tropical rainforest zone is found in the south and is the location of the majority of the country's petroleum and coal resources. This region extends from the Gulf of Guinea up to the capital city of Abuja. The northern part of the country consists of the savanna. This area of the country is predominantly agricultural, yet it also holds gold, platinum, limestone, and iron reserves. You could see on the border of the Gulf of Guinea a city called Lagos. This is the largest city in Nigeria and has a population of 10.2 million people. The capital city of Abuja, by contrast, has only 1.9 million people. The map on the right has been added to the presentation to demonstrate the fact that Nigeria is a federal republic. Therefore, in addition to a strong central government, Nigeria is divided into 36 distinct states, which generally correspond to the various ethnic groups that comprise the Nigerian population. One note before switching to a discussion of Nigerian ethnic composition. Nigeria was a British colony up until 1960. At this time it transitioned to a civilian government. However, the 16 years preceding 1999, Nigeria was controlled by a military coup, and in 1999, power transferred back to a civilian government peacefully. Today, Nigeria is enjoying its longest period of civilian rule. Before getting into the ethnic composition of Nigeria, I would like to briefly draw attention to the map provided on the left-hand side of the slide. As you can see, this is a population density map, and as I previously mentioned, Lagos is the city with the most population in Nigeria, and that is shown here on the map, where the area surrounding Lagos is shaded in dark purple. Nigeria comprises approximately 250 ethnic groups, which divide the country both linguistically and territorially. The three main tribes can be shown in the map on the right: the Hausa and Fulani, which are found in the north, the Yoruba and the Igbo, which are found in the southwest and southeast, respectively. You should note that the Hausa and Fulani are predominantly Muslim, whereas the Yoruba and Igbo tribes are mostly Christian. The predominant Christian religion in Nigeria is Catholicism. However, it should be mentioned that throughout the entire country in all regions, traditional religions are often blended with Muslim, Islam, and Christianity. I'd now like to begin discussing Nigerian oral communication styles. Nigeria has 370 different ethnic languages. However, despite these 374 tribal-based languages, English is the national language in Nigeria. Therefore, English is used when drawing up contracts, conducting any government or official business. However, like everything in Nigeria, there are multiple types of English. There's standard English, which is English that is generally considered to be spoken by the educated, and it corresponds mostly with the grammar of British English. Then there's Nigerian English, which is generally considered to be spoken by less educated people and people with a lower status in society, and this is a blend of standard English and Pidgin English. Pidgin English is particularly unique in that it's a slang language that is spoken predominantly in the marketplace. Pidgin English has some very unique sayings. For instance, in Pidgin English, you would never conjugate the verb bear to reflect the tense that you're describing when referring to the act of having babies. A Nigerian speaking Pidgin English might say, "My auntie will born twins next month." instead of my auntie will bear twins next month. There are also some strange, well, I guess what Americans would consider strange expressions in Pidgin English. One would be, rather than saying brush my teeth, you would say brush my mouth. Also, instead of saying my body is itching me, Nigerians speaking Pidgin English will say my body is scratching me, since they do not distinguish between itching and scratching in Pidgin English. Nonverbal communication patterns in Nigeria are equally interesting. In America, we like people to look us in the eye when we speak with them. In Nigeria, this might be considered rude or, in some cases, offensive. Americans tend to like a lot of space between parties when speaking with another person. Nigerians are quite the opposite. In fact, Nigerians generally don't recognize the concept of personal space. This can be seen since most Nigerians speaking with each other will be within one arm's length distance of each other, and in mass transit settings, people are often sitting right on top of each other. Nigerians generally are an affable culture, and it's very common for men and women to greet each other with a handshake. Although this handshake is not as common in Muslim areas between men and women for obvious religious reasons. In addition, it's often common to see Nigerian men walking down the street holding hands, engaged in conversation. However, if they seem angry when they're speaking to each other, most likely they're simply being emphatic and excited about the topic in which they're speaking about. And one point to make before leaving nonverbal communications. It is extremely vulgar to use the thumbs up symbol when in Nigeria. This is in stark contrast to the United States, where a thumbs up is generally an affirmative gesture. Additionally, Nigerians often will gesture by making a kissing sound at each other to gain attention. In the United States, this may constitute sexual harassment in certain situations. Before discussing the written and visual communication styles in Nigerian culture, I think it's important to first understand some of the Nigerian cultural values. Nigeria is a society that emphasizes power distance, especially when compared to the United States. As you can see from this graph, Nigeria scores an 80 on the power distance chart. Nigerians hold high regard for title, especially titles pertaining to educational status, political status, and age in general. The elderly in Nigerian society are held in high regard. Nigerians are a collectivist culture, as you can see by them scoring relatively low on the individualistic dimension. Therefore, Nigerians value extended family and the collective welfare of people within their society. However, Nigerians are also a masculine society. In particular, these views are reflected in the fact that men are regarded more highly in business situations generally than women. Nigerians do not like uncertainty. In fact, they're also known to be quite superstitious, and they often purchase charms and other types of tonics to keep away evil spirits and to influence life events. Finally, the Nigerians score very low on the long-term orientation index, suggesting that they're a short-term oriented culture. This could be witnessed in some of their buying patterns, where they tend to buy non-material things to emphasize maintaining their current status in society because they don't know what tomorrow will bring. Mass media in Nigerian society comprises TV, radio, mobile telephones, landline telephones, newspaper, magazines, and the internet. However, it's important to note that a large part of the Nigerian population live in rural areas and therefore may be unable to read. As a result, television is perhaps one of the most widespread mass media instruments within the nation. One interesting fact about Nigerian television is the fact that each station must register with the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation with a slogan. Slogans are very important in Nigerian communication, especially when it comes to television and radio stations. Each station, whether radio or television, will attempt to occupy a certain niche of Nigerian society, whether it be political or some sort of social niche. This station is then broadcast throughout the entire country and serves as a unifying force. This is a recurrent theme in Nigerian society, since the federal government really needs to go through a lot of effort to maintain some sort of unified message among the different ethnic groups that make up society. I alluded earlier to the fact that Nigerians, as you can see in the picture in the left, have access to mobile phones. In fact, approximately 70% of the Nigerian population use mobile phones. These mobile phones are mostly used for texting. However, 33% of Nigerians do use mobile phones as smartphones and use it for internet access. Nigerian visual communication is heavily influenced in its tradition of gong, drum beats, masquerade, and puppetry. On this slide, I've simply attached some images of masquerade, which you can see on the right and the top left, and of Nigerian puppetry on the lower left. Nigerian mass media exemplifies its high context advertising culture. Messages are never written explicitly as they might be in the United States. And generally, messages exist to portray some type of subliminal message or cultural value that may not be apparent at a first gaze. I'd like to use these two images on this slide as examples. In the first image, it's an advertisement for Virgin Nigeria, and it says "can't go lower than this," which shows you a picture of a Nigerian woman wearing rather low-cut jeans. This ad is quite interesting. In one sense, it conveys the Nigerian ideal of and romanticism with Western society. Nigerians enjoy traveling to the West, and lots of times ads will display romantic images of cities such as Paris or London, or even destinations in the United States. However, there's also a strong tension in Nigerian society between the hedonism of the West and its focus on pleasure and traditional Nigerian values. This ad seems to evoke such sentiment. On the right, you can also see the fact that this Nigerian woman, while looking rather modern and somewhat Western, is still wearing Nigerian traditional attire. This is a concept that's pretty widespread throughout Nigeria, since ads generally do not favor Nigerian culture or favor the West. They tend to run 50%, 50%. There is one other theme that's often found in Nigerian media, and that's the theme of the man as the breadwinner of the family, and also the man as a symbol of power. To start with the first one, the man as a symbol, as the breadwinner of the family, it really conjures up images of 1950s America where these types of ads would feature a man going to work and coming home and his wife has dinner on the table for him. Of course, the focus generally could be around consumer products, and the woman might be serving some type of food to her husband's liking, and this is seen as a positive image for the product. Another theme is the man as a source of intellect and high status to be held in regard. So men are often depicted as professors or the head of the household, always willing to give advice. One of the stories that I read while conducting my research told of a man who was really upset by the fact that a woman sitting next to him on a bus was sick. He actually sort of accosted her angrily at the fact that she was sick, but then at the same time offered advice, showing his expertise in medical matters, I suppose. But this is a common theme where a Nigerian might confront someone, but then also offer advice and attempt to solve the problem for them. This concludes my presentation on Nigerian culture. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you on some of the other Nigerian presentations on